Good evening, everyone. I'll give folks another moment or two to join us, and we will get started. All right. Well, good evening again. My name is Casey Ford, and I serve as a director in our Gantt Center for Student Experience here at Clemson University. And a large part of my role is supporting yours as a parent and family member of our newest Clemson Tigers. So, as you may know, there are a few ways for you all as parents and families to engage in the orientation process. Perhaps you have been able to or will join us for a Ready, Set, Roar session here on campus. Um, Perhaps you've engaged in our virtual orientation platform and clicked around in the guest version of that portal. But there's another way that we like to connect with you all over the summer, and that is what we call our Tiger Talk webinar series. So we are nearing the end of our series this summer, but have found these to be a great way to allow you all some direct FaceTime with campus leaders, a chance to share resources and make sure that you all feel successful, both in supporting your student as they transition to Clemson, and also that you feel that your own transition is being supported. And so super excited to be here tonight with our leadership team here in Student Affairs, who are going to tell you a little bit more about themselves and share some pieces of advice as we near the fall semester. A few housekeeping things I want to go over before we officially kick off. So we will continue to click through our content here tonight. We've got a group of panelists who will introduce themselves as they present their content. And then we will have some question and answer time at the end before we conclude with some final remarks and reminders. I imagine you all are more than comfortable with the Zoom environment at this point in time, but just a quick few reminders here. We are in a Zoom webinar, so a little bit different from a typical Zoom meeting. You'll see a few toolbars on your toolbar there that we'll talk through. One of those is the question and answer button. As we go along tonight, you will have the chance throughout our presentation to submit any questions. We'd ask that you use that button specifically to submit those questions, which will allow us as panelists to get those answered. We are going to use that chat feature to share out any links, anything that kind of complements what our presenters are sharing. And so we'll use that to share out resources. But if you have questions directly for our panelists, if you'll use that question and answer tool, we all have access to that and have the chance to address those through that button. We don't have a great way to acknowledge the hand raise tool in the webinar environment. So again, if you will use that question and answer tool to submit your question, we'll make sure that gets answered in this space. You will also note a couple other things. One, that your audio and video has been muted. So hopefully you're seeing my face as well as our panelists. Philip Sykes and Sherelle Huggins, who you can see on the call, are doing some great behind the scenes work, helping us field some questions, share out those links. And then again, the rest of our panelists will have lots to share about themselves when they introduce others. Final tool I would point out that you are noticing is that the session is being recorded. So if there are things that pop up later on that you want to reference, know that we will record this session, send that out through the Clemson Parent and Family Experience portal, and then that will also live in the Clemson Family Programs YouTube page. So Sherelle, our link queen, as I call her, is going to be sharing out those links and resources as we discuss them through the chat. And so just a reminder that this will be recorded for your viewing later on. And with that, I will let our Vice President for Student Affairs, Dr. Doug Hallenbeck, kick things off.
All right. Thank you, Casey. And just so all the families out there know, Casey is one of our rising stars here at Clemson. So she is a wonderful person for you all to get to know and to have your students get to know as well. A little bit about me. Again, Doug Hallenbeck, Vice President for Student Affairs. I have a total of 14 years of service at Clemson, broken up in two different tenures. My first tenure was 12 years. And you kind of see on the screen there, I spent a little time. I came as the executive director of housing, then associate vice president, senior associate vice president when I left. Went away for 5 years to be a vice president at Oklahoma State University. I only go to schools with orange, and so I went there. And then about 2 years ago, had the opportunity to come back to God's country and be the vice president here and be a part of this tremendous team. So this is home for me. I grew up in Georgia, and so not far from here in Athens. And so it's just a wonderful to be back and to be part of Clemson. A little bit about me. One of my favorite Clemson tradition really is homecoming week, which is coming up in the fall. Just a tremendous time. I encourage you all to come back if you get a chance for homecoming. It's just a tremendous time. Hopefully many of your students will get an opportunity to participate in homecoming builds or be a part of all the different festivities that we have. I am a second generation student affairs professional in a family of 3. My daughter also is. So my dad was in student affairs. I'm in student affairs. My middle child, I have 3 grown children. The middle one is in student affairs up in Virginia. So this is a family business, so to speak. Go ahead, next slide, Casey. Want to, again, a little bit more just about kind of some pictures from my tenure to get to know me a little bit. The ones on the left-hand side of your screen are from my first time here. I guess took pictures when I like to speak. The one on the top was at the topping out ceremony when we were building Douthit Hills. And so some of y'all students probably are going to live in Douthit. And that was when we were building that project. The other one, I can't remember when that one was. The 2 middle ones are just the pictures of the top one is some with our strong student leaders over in Clemson Home, and it's part of our residence life and residential learning family. A picture there during the homecoming build with, I think that's Izzy McCrane, who was our homecoming chair last year for the student for Central Spirit, and then Dean Poole, who you'll hear from in a minute. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, we had our Southeast Fitness Expo that we hosted with college fitness people from all across the Southeast. And they wanted me to teach them how to dance. And so I had the opportunity to show those youngsters. You can see on the screen, I'm the only one that's really taking it that seriously, but a lot of fun doing that. Go to the next slide, Casey. Just give you an idea about student affairs and who we are and why we wanted an opportunity to talk to you. Student affairs in general is responsible for everything that happens in the life of a student. Whether you're happy, sad, sick, or scared, we're here to help the students, but also help the families navigate the experience as well. And so we're here for you. As you can see, I report directly to the president. President Benjamin Ayers starts next Monday is his first day. We're super excited for him to get here. I've had a chance to meet him. He is pumped and ready to go. And I think it's just going to be a tremendous leader for us. And then you see the other folks that you'll hear from today, Dean Poole, Kimberly Poole, Kathy Bush Hobgood, and Kendra Stewart-Tillman, and they'll tell you all about themselves. But we really are, when we talk about the senior leadership of the university, especially the senior leadership of student affairs, we are it. And so we wanted to make sure that you got to see who we are. And so if you ever need anything, ever have any questions, you know that there's folks out there that do the work that we do, that we care about you, we care about the students as well. Next slide. So student affairs, again, our vision is to have the #1 student experience. That's the one of our pillars for the university, and our job is to help deliver the #1 student experience. That experience is different for each one of each one of our students. And so as family members, your student is, we care about that experience, and each one's unique and special. And so part of our job is to help make that happen. Throughout the life of a college student, every day is not going to be the best day of their life. And so they're going to have ups and downs, challenges, and others. As we like to think about it, it's the overall experience. When they look back, they can say that they made the best decision they could have made by coming to Clemson. Next slide. The mission, that was our vision. Our mission is to build tomorrow's leaders through value-driven programs and experiential learning opportunities. So basically, helping students take what they learn in the classroom, apply it to real world settings, and help them become who they're going to be. 70 to 75% of a student's time is spent outside the class. As you all know that, raising high school folks, for the parents out there, they spend a lot of their time not in school. They spend a lot of their time not in class here. And our job is to help them navigate all that experience. Next slide. We are grounded within student affairs on 4 priorities: well-being, kind of just the overall well-being. If you heard me speak at Ready, Set, Roar, you heard me talk about eat better, sleep better, exercise more. That's part of the well-being culture that we want folks to pay attention to their overall health, but also that's mental health, that's their physical fitness. It's also just all the good habits that you've been talking to them about their whole lives. We also have a culture of care. How do we wrap our arms around the students within the boundaries that they'll be able to maneuver in to make sure that they're as safe as possible and that they know at the end of the day that we care. Spaces and places is just all the different places, whether it's in a residence halls, in our recreation facilities, in Hendrick Student Center, anywhere where we are at, making sure that those spaces and those places help amplify the student experience. And then laying the foundation really is about what are we doing to help students with, I like to talk about career readiness. What are we doing every step of the way to help reinforce skills, abilities that students will need when they graduate? And how do we help them connect the dots from whether they're floor representative, their freshman year in the residence hall, all the way up to being student body president and everything in between? How do we help them make meaning of that experience so when they graduate, they have a leg up when they're interviewing for jobs, all that to deliver the #1 student experience. Next slide, Casey. The university has a set of values that we believe strongly in, and as a division, we are charged with many ways of helping students live into these values: integrity, respect, diversity, patriotism, excellence, and self-reliance. The students will hear us talk about those regularly, whether it's all of them at once, but also how each one of those individually may be impacting decisions they're making or programs that we're doing or organizations they're a part of. All, again, part of how do we help students make meaning of their experience, but we're not just out there doing it willy-nilly. We have purpose for all that we do. Next slide. Oh, and so then with that, I'll kick it over to our Dean of Students and Associate Vice President, Dr. Kimberly Poole.
Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be here with you this evening to share a little bit about myself and some of the areas I work with in our division holistically. So again, the name and title have been shared, but want to share I've been at Clemson a total of 21 years as of April, and that's actually after serving in other positions outside of the university, but it's been a great place to come back to and come home to because I previously attended as a student. Came back in 2005 in our counseling center and had the opportunity to start one of our programs there and provide prevention and intervention services in the counseling center. And from there, just had a thirst and hunger for learning more about how we can support our students. And as I received my doctorate, went on to various growth and leadership opportunities to best serve our students and to be a part of this community. So you can see some of those roles working with our Office of Advocacy and Success, as well as various iterations of the Dean of Students office, and really had the privilege as of April 2025 to interview and be named as the Dean of Students here at Clemson University to serve your students and to serve you and to support that best experience here. Several areas, obviously, as Dean of Students, I have the opportunity to work with all students, no matter what's going on, whether we're celebrating or whether there's a challenge. I'm here for students to talk through and work through whatever may be going on. But also, I work very specifically with some other departments within our division that support students. We do have our Dean of Students offices. Within that, we have our Care Network services. And hopefully you've heard about the Care Network either through this series or if you were at Ready, Set, Roar. But that is our opportunity that if you're aware of a student, you can refer or they can self-refer. But if a student is going through something where they're having a challenge or they have a question about navigating their time here on campus, we can submit a care referral and one of my team members will follow up to make sure that the student needs are met and connecting to those appropriate resources on campus. We also, under our umbrella, provide interpersonal violence response services as well as interpersonal violence prevention services, ensuring that students who may have had some of those related experiences can have their needs met and educate on prevention and risk reduction related to that. But when we talk about the Dean of Students Office, we understand that higher education can be complex. And so what we want to ensure is that there's a place amongst many, but that there's a key place that our students can come to and get that help and support that they may need. Now, we know our students are going to have a great experience. A lot of positive things will happen, but there are moments that we have learning opportunities, and that's where our Office of Community and Ethical Standards, which is our conduct office, that's where that comes into play. It's really a system to help students navigate and learn from things that may have been a violation of our code of conduct. It's meant to be, along with the accountability, to have an educational component to help our students, because we know that this moment in time at Clemson is a part of their journey. And so as they continue to grow as individuals beyond Clemson, we hope that there's learning in the positive things, but also if they do have some not so positive things that may happen. So that's our Office of Community and Ethical Standards. I have the privilege of working with our Military and Veteran Engagement Office as well as our Office of Military Affairs. And that's where we serve our student veterans and our military connected students. We right now, as of this past fiscal year, have over 3,300 students. And so that's those who have served, those who are currently serving, those who may be a part of the reserves, but also are military connected. So if you have a student coming here who you've served and now they will be here, we want to support them because we know they've had some unique experiences throughout their life, and we've created spaces within our 100 Student Center as well as Vickery Hall for them to come together as community for us to help navigate questions that may come up specific to potentially benefits use or just navigating that time here as a member of our military community. And finally, our student health services. Sometimes people are not aware. We do have a full health center on campus, so we provide in the medical side ambulatory services. We've got a pharmacy, x-ray, labs, all the things if you were to think about maybe going to your primary care, we provide those services. Additionally, we have our counseling and psychological services. And so that's master's and doctoral level clinicians. We have psychiatry on staff. So for our students to receive those services and support. And one of the things I like to point out with counseling, sometimes people think things have to be really bad. And our goal is to help and assist early on as a student may be going through something. And if it does get even more difficult, we're here for that as well. But these are things that are available to them and the resources are available through student health fee that is paid. And also, I do tell students, learning to use these systems and support their own health and well-being now as they transition from your home will also help them as they transition out of the university. So we want to support that. My fun fact, I do have 3 Clemson degrees. Was not planned, but it's been the best thing ever. It was kind of a little bit of an in and out, so there's gaps between each of those degrees, but it's awesome. I wear this Clemson ring with pride, so I'm really excited about that. So that's a little bit about me and the areas I work with, and we are here to continue to work with you. I'll share a little bit more through some photos so that you can get to know who I am. Now, if you've been to Ready, Set, Roar, this top left photo, you may have seen that. That is way back the 1900s, May 1995, as some of us in my core group of friends were graduating from here at Clemson. My head's peeking out that top left on the back is my little head sticking out. And I share this because on the bottom left is a picture that's from May 2026. And what we want to know, our students leave here with degrees and accolades and a lot of things, but we want them to have that sense of community and belonging and find that core group of friends that hopefully become lifelong relationships that they continue to reminisce on their time on campus and come back to campus as well. So that's a little snapshot of some of my closest friends and our journey from Clemson. The top picture in the middle is, really a big part of what I talked about is our care network services and student support. And so again, we're going to meet with and engage with students to understand what's going on and help direct and support them. The bottom middle, another great opportunity I have is I serve as advisor for our undergraduate student government. Just leaders beyond leaders making a difference on campus and throughout, as many of our students are. And so this is a picture from this spring. We each year have the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and spend time on the Hill, and as a part of what is referred to as ACC Advocacy Day. So other schools within the ACC, we go in, meet with senators, legislators, as well as spend time together. And so that's a great moment there to get to know and spend more time with them. And finally, on the right is actually a picture from ring ceremony. You get to see your students coming across the stage. I say ring ceremony is one of my new favorite traditions. We didn't have it when I got my ring, but it's a great time where students are just celebrating the accomplishments they've had thus far, and it's a really great lead-in to preparing for graduation. But this ring is something we wear with pride, and it's a conversation piece no matter where you go in the world. So that's just a little glimpse into my world and my joy in spending time with our students. So I will pass it to Dr. Kendra Stewart-Tillman. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Poole. Good evening, everybody. Excited to be with you here this evening. As was mentioned, my name is Kendra Stewart-Tillman. I have the pleasure of serving on this leadership team in student affairs. I have been at Clemson for 13 years as a professional. I came at first in 2008, to earn the PhD. Graduated in 2011. You'll see that picture in a little bit, and had all thoughts that my tenure at Clemson was done in 2011 when I walked across that stage and drove away. A year and a half later, I was back, and here I am 13 years later. So total, I've had 16 years at Clemson, and it's been a great experience, specifically thinking about supporting our students, as Dean Poole talked about, in multiple facets of their involvement and how to find their community, how to find their niche, knowing that there's not one Clemson student experience. When we say deliver the number one student experience, we mean that holistically, but that's not one track for every single student. We want a lot of different opportunities for our students to partake in, and those are there. I have had the pleasure of serving in the Harvey and Lucinda Gantt Center for a large part of my career, both as a doctoral graduate assistant and as a professional since I've been back. Excited to always carry that name of Harvey and Lucinda. Depending on your geography and engagement, you may know them for multiple reasons of creating history and being trailblazers, either at Clemson University or in Charlotte, North Carolina. When I used to do trivia, folks would sometimes know them more for the North Carolina part, but excited as they are great Clemson alums that have represented leadership and service at Clemson and beyond. So excited about those roles. I was called into this work, I say, because of the experience I had as a student when I did not go to Clemson undergrad, but you see, I do have that Clemson degree. I did get one in. But thinking about my time as an undergrad, a lot of the advisors of the student organizations I was participating in or mentoring programs, a lot of the faculty were very instrumental in supporting me as a first generation student. I call myself traditional first generation because my dad went to college when I was in high school. So he always has said, you still learned something and had to teach us that we didn't know. So thinking about the support system that really got me through college and supported me and guided me into this is what degree you need next. And you need to think about graduate school and you need to think about a PhD, because I also thought I was bachelor's and done. And so with that, that is the type of philosophy and mentality that I also wanted to pour back into students. I also say that I'm here a long time, not only because of how I want to invest in students, but Clemson has invested in me as a professional to invest in our students. And so that wraps up really nicely into the areas that I'm able to work with and have the pleasure to work with. Gantt Center for Student Experience, as Casey mentioned today, very robust in thinking about what I said. How do you get involved? How do you find your community? How do you develop skills that are important for here and beyond, as well as how do you get involved in the community from a service lens and standpoint, as well as family programs such as the Tiger Talks tonight. So thinking about multiple facets of how to engage Central Spirit, Tiger Live. Many of you may, if you haven't, I'm sure you will hear about through your students, the homecoming build, First Friday parades, all the exciting traditions that our students and families really appreciate taking part in, the weeks of welcome. I will talk about that later, of thinking about just you've seen a lot already through Ready, Set, Roar, but more of the really finding community in place here. Thinking about, I mentioned I'm a first generation student, supporting first generation students in that way, unites late night programming, thinking about our students who are on campus, like, well, what should I do this evening? There's programming already there for you in many different ways. So there never should be a dull moment. I will say that for students. I have two little ones that like to tell me they're bored all the time, because they think they always have to do something. But at Clemson University, I will tell you there's always a way to get involved. And in some ways, I'll say this to families, we want our students not to be too involved because there's so much to do. So in that way, also advising our students of not overcommitting, but again, taking advantage of many of the opportunities that are here. Also, the pleasure of working with fraternity and sorority life. I also, as I mentioned, my undergraduate experience joined a sorority. It's a lifelong commitment and a great part of my identity and work. And so I'm glad to work with that community. Again, thinking about the social nature, the membership, but also the development of leaders, and thinking about the leaders that come and community that comes out of our fraternity and sorority life community. August is when a lot of activity will be happening in fraternity and sorority life with Panhellenic recruitment and IFC Rush. We have 4 councils, I should say that. We have 4 councils within fraternity and sorority life: the Interfraternity Council, fraternities, the Panhellenic sororities. We also have National Panhellenic Council, 8 of the Divine Nine represented on campus, and then we have 3 multicultural Greek organizations. So different ways of joining. Many start in August. Our National Panhellenic Council wants you to have most of them want you to have a semester under your belt before joining, and there'll be information about that. And then Multicultural Greek Council, that also some want you to have a semester on your belt, but some there's access to first year students. So a lot of ways to get involved in fraternity and sorority community, as well as I mentioned briefly, why I appreciate Clemson investing in me as a professional is really coming in handy now and thinking about our academic partnerships. I have the pleasure of working directly with a lot of our partners within the academic colleges, as many of us do, but specifically with the goal in mind that students don't get caught up in our org charts. As Dr. Hallenbeck showed you earlier, we know our organizational charts, we know our hierarchies, they're important. And from a student experience lens, they shouldn't feel it too much. There should be a supportive ecosystem, regardless of it's in the classroom, outside of the classroom, and getting support. So I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of our associate deans and academic partners over the last year and thinking about ways that we can minimize that even more to make sure and maximize the partnership, minimize the org charts, maximize the partnerships, so that regardless of the student org they're participating in, whether it be in the academic setting or a social setting, that there is support, there's an ecosystem that we all are recognizing how to get the students to the right place. And so that's been a great pleasure to work on that. My fun fact, I've had 4 family members that have earned Clemson degrees while I've been working here for the last 13 years. I've had a nephew, 2 nieces, one who was a rally cat and very prominently known, and a cousin, all come through Clemson while I've been here. And so that's been a pleasure. And you'll see some of these on the next slide we'll go to. As I mentioned earlier, the first picture you'll see is when I graduated in 2011 with a PhD in educational leadership, shaking the hand of former President Jim Barker, who was president at the time. My nephew, who graduated in 2018, is that next picture. I had the pleasure at one of our graduation celebrations of placing his kente stole on him, as I was able to also do for my niece. So that's been a really great experience of seeing Clemson family take on true meaning of Clemson family in that way. Next, you'll see with 2 of our great leaders within student affairs, I'm standing with them at the table. Kate Radford, Executive Director of the Gantt Center for Student Experience, Trish Robertson, Assistant Dean of Students and Director of Fraternity and Sorority Life. As I mentioned, great partners. I've actually known both of them for over 10 years. Kate and I were both graduate students and graduate assistants in the same area in the Gantt Center back in about 2009. So again, full circle moments to come back and to work together again is really exciting. That bottom middle picture is when I was able to participate and lead a trip to Cuba, a study abroad trip to Cuba, a Maymester trip for our students, knowing sometimes a semester abroad might be a big undertaking. So there's a lot of different ways that students can still find opportunities to study abroad. So I had the opportunity to go to Cuba and look at studying tourism from an economic lens in Cuba. So that was a great experience to travel with students abroad. And then the last one over here is one of our great student leaders, Maya Caskelli, who I was able to work with in different facets for about 3 years, who just graduated, and she became student body vice president. And that was at a banquet, end of the year banquet, celebrating our students and our student leaders before them. So that's a little bit about me and the areas that I work with. So with that, I'll toss it over to our great senior associate vice president, Kathy Bush Hobgood.
Thank you, Dr. Stewart-Tillman. Good evening. It's so nice to be here together with folks as everybody plans for the fall semester. I last Friday had the pleasure of celebrating my 20th anniversary at Clemson, which is not, thank you, Doug, not what I thought was going to happen. I can assure you, if you're not familiar with us as an institution, Clemson has a way of getting into your heart. And then you look up years later and you're like, oh, I was going to leave, but why would I ever want to go somewhere else? Previous to coming to Clemson, I worked at the University of Florida and at Albion College in Michigan. My academic degrees are from Western Illinois University and the University of Iowa. Go Hawks. When I came to Clemson in 2006, it was to serve as the director of residential life, which had oversight of the residential experience. What were the RAs doing? How do we work with all of the partners that it takes to make sure that students stay safe and secure as they transition to the institution? After that, I had the opportunity to work as the executive director of housing and dining from 2014 to 2019, and have kept those experiences as my portfolio has continued to expand. But certainly have a lot of investment in what is the environment like on campus. How do we interact with students? What's the environment like in the dining hall? If it's the same or different from their residence hall? And how do we continue to make sure that everybody has what they need outside of the classroom? Over the years, that grew to expand some other units like parking and transportation, the university bookstore, and the child education center, which are also part of that environment building. Most recently, I've gotten the opportunity to work with campus recreation, who are busy all the time creating wellness activities, but also opportunities for students to connect and travel together as they work through the myriad recreation activities that are available here on the upstate, but also in their partnerships with other departments. I also work with campus reservations and events, which is a team of people that love to do stuff. So they are out and about making the Hendricks Student Center live, having events in the Barn Center, working with the team on our chapel on campus, which is a beautiful place to visit when you're out and about on campus. They also have responsibility for large-scale campus events in making sure that we're managing those appropriately, and then managing some of our large-scale campus celebrations, like everybody's goal, participating in graduation. So that team is available certainly to work with student groups, but also with our faculty and staff. And then I also work with the Healthy Campus team. Healthy Campus brings a number of educational programs to students, like Aspire to Be Well is one that you'll hear from your student about, and are creating the wellness partnerships that make our Red Fern conversations talk with what's happening in campus rec, what's happening in residential life, and making sure that students have a view of well-being that's beyond the sort of more narrower view that they tend to come with us with, for sure. I have a sort of unique favorite Clemson tradition. So my office is right on the corner of Bowman Field. So I'm right there next to the Carillon Bells. And you may not know this, but students can take a class. It's a 1 credit hour class and learn how to play the bells. And so over the semester, most of them progress in that skill set. But there's about a 2-day period where they're taking their final exams, and some of them are amazing and some of them are awful, but there's something about it that feeds my heart to hear students playing the bells all day. So if you're ever on campus and you hear it, and you're wondering what that is, that's students taking the bell class. I must have used too many words other places on my slide, so my fun fact didn't get included, so I'll just tell you what it was. Having had a myriad of sort of different experiences on campus, every time that I start to work with a new unit, I ask those directors to create a training schedule for me. So I'm 99.9% certain that I'm the only person on campus that has cooked in the Harcum kitchens, written a parking ticket, and been the guest reader at story time at the Child Care Center. Lots of fun to be had. The next slide. I chose several pictures just from fun memories, but also to tell a few stories. In the top left-hand corner, you can see a picture of Dr. Hallenbeck and myself. We have an annual tradition where at the end of the last day of move-in, we go to the roof of Burns Hall and look out and about, see what's happening. We take a selfie, and then we go for ice cream at the 55 Exchange and declare it the best move-in ever. So the ritual happens exactly the same, and I have a whole collection of this same picture, which is, part of your own personal traditions that you create year to year. We've had a lot of opportunities to build new residential areas on campus during my tenure at Clemson, but we also have had the opportunity to do due diligence and pay honor to buildings that whose future was not to be renovated, but to make space for other different buildings. So the next picture to directly underneath my name is from the roof of the Clemson House just before the day after the sign was taken down. So that iconic neon sign was really sort of part of the skyline of Clemson forever. And one of those fun memories for sure. We've had lots of opportunities to play with the Tigers and to make sure that we're out and about having our school spirit. In the center section in the middle, I included a photo from a service project that I participated in through one of our leadership institutes. At Clemson, we really do our due diligence to make sure that we live our land grant mission for the good of the people of the state of South Carolina. And so doing that time and spending time out and about in the community is really important to me. And then lastly, a photo of me with one of my very favorite students who graduated in May and headed out to her first full-time job in Utah. This is Skylar Walder, who really brought a lot to us during her graduate program and will continue to make an impact in her postgraduate world, which is what we want for all of our students, right? So thanks for listening for a few minutes. I'm going to turn it over to Casey to facilitate some Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy, and thank you to all of our panelists. Certainly hope that you all learned some more about our leadership team and kind of the first portion of our session here tonight. We wanted to make sure that we spent the next kind of second half of our time together talking through some questions and some answers. So we have compiled what we think really capture a lot of what you all as families are coming in wondering, coming in hoping to find out, and certainly want to take advantage of the opportunity for our vice president and associate vice presidents to address those. We'll have a few that we've talked through here in the beginning, and then again, a reminder that you are welcome to submit any others that come to mind through that question and answer feature, and we will field those as we get to them. So kicking us off here, a question for Dr. Hallenbeck. What do you think is the most important piece to a student's success in their first semester at Clemson?
Well, I have a few. One that is unrelated to student affairs, but extraordinarily important: go to class. Number one, go to class, sit near the front, take notes. That is the most important in terms of success. The other is really take advantage of the communities and find your place. Whether it's on your residence hall floor, whether it's fraternity, sorority, another student organization. I encourage students, we have 600 student organizations. I encourage students to find one that is they're comfortable with and they love, and then one that challenges them a little bit, stretches them, is a little bit outside their comfort zone. At least go to one meeting and check it out, because you can find a whole new group of friends that you otherwise would not have come in contact with. So that, to me, those are probably the two big: go to class and then find your community.
Awesome. Next question, we'll have Dr. Poole speak to this one. As someone who chose Clemson for your education and career, what do you hope that every new student discovers about this community in that first year?
I will start off by being cliche to say I chose Clemson for my bachelor's, and then from there, Clemson has really given me the opportunity. I would say it gives me those chances that it chooses me, because it is about opportunity. So when I think about what do we want our students to discover about our community, I would say about the community and about themselves is that there's opportunity. And so what are those things you say yes to? What are those things that you will try out? So I hope they discover a place for them to explore, whether it's literally the physical campus that's here, find that favorite spot, the favorite dining hall. I always say, where are those places you really enjoy, but also this is a community about people and, that core group of friends, and the friends who may be seasonal. That's okay too. Find those who bring purpose and an opportunity in your life. And then, as they grow as a person, that this community supports them. For some of our students, challenges are a rarity. They maybe haven't had, or they've had, family members like you all to be here to support them. So as they go through those things, that they realize this community has resources and we have people who care and we want to do things to help them navigate through whatever they're going through. I always say excitement and celebrations, but also navigating any challenges. So this community offers a lot to them to help them grow personally and also to help them as they become the stronger person that they are for life beyond Clemson. So again, I've been here a long time and I keep growing and learning and pretending I'm still college age. So
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Poole. Next question for Dr. Stewart-Tillman is for students who may be nervous about making friends, wondering where they'll fit in, trying to find that community that we've all talked about here tonight. What would you want them to know about finding community at Clemson?
Yeah, I will say there's a lot of different ways to engage in community. Unfortunately, there's a lot of opportunities to develop that community. I have some that I've already mentioned with the weeks of welcome that really start upon move in that go into September. There's a lot of different activities to engage with other students, find your niche, find your interests. As Dr. Hallenbeck mentioned, we have over 600 student organizations that range, as I mentioned earlier, from social to academic to service and more. So different ways. We have Tiger Prowl, a great place where all of our student organizations are represented in those early weeks. So that's a great way to engage with those organizations. Really, just the residence halls is a great opportunity of thinking about your literal neighbors and maybe even roommates that I know may be new for the first time for many. Not to take any from Kathy's thunder of talking about Clemson home, but that is a great place to find community. That is your new home. So thinking about the people right outside your door and your roommates the first time living on a hall with 15, 20 peers. I mean, that's a very different experience. So just going outside of your door and those nights and having those chats and finding those different groups. So there's many opportunities. As I said, the word of caution actually is don't take advantage of too much at one time in some ways. But for folks who are concerned, I would say go to those events, partake in them, be okay if the first organization or first activity or that you participate in may not be what you expected it to be. There are more. Don't feel, I think about, I'll give an example and it may not be a great one to give and thinking about that, but for folks who may go through Russia recruitment, they're like, oh, I didn't find the organization, the sorority or fraternity that I thought I would fit with. There are so many more opportunities. So really not giving up at that first interest meeting or that first organization or first meeting or even roommate is like, oh, this isn't my lifelong friend. It may not be, but there is potentially the lifelong friend down that hall or across campus. So that would be a big thing is not giving up within those first couple of weeks. That's why we call it weeks of welcome, because it's not about that first experience. It's really about a totality of an experience. So there's a lot of different opportunities to take advantage of. Read the social media posts, read the emails, follow friends who are like, hey, I'm going over here to this event, because there's a lot of ways to find the niche and what the community means for you at Clemson.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. And transitioning back to Kathy Bush Hobgood, what does it look like for a student to truly make Clemson home, as we say? And how can families encourage that process while also giving their student the space to grow?
I love this question. Thank you for asking. So my team that works with Clemson Home would tell you today that it's 13 days till the first day of move-in. So everybody's on red alert with all of our planning and what are we doing and how are we getting there and what are all the pieces that we're taking with us, what we're going to bring later in the semester. But it's also a really great time to have conversations with your student about what will your communication plan be for week one. Is it a daily conversation? Is it a every other day? Is it every hour? And how you work through that together. I always think about our students trying to find enough way to feel at home on campus, miss home, but then when they go home for winter break to say, okay, I'm ready to go back to home. And they slip and say it, meaning I'm ready to go back to campus. And they really start to have two homes. Do your very best not to cringe the first time they say that because they haven't done away with your home, but they're finding room in their hearts for multiple homes and building what their campus community looks like, and then what their community of origin looks like with their families. We have a lot of resources within Clemson Home, as well as other places on campus for students to meet each other. We have a staff member on every community floor that's called an RCM, a residential community mentor. And those undergraduate students are already here. Dr. Hallenbeck and I had an opportunity to visit with them today on their first day of staff training. So for the next 2 weeks, they'll be spending time getting ready for you, your student, and making sure that they have as many answers as possible. And they start off at day one, building that residential community so that students can thrive in that space with your ongoing support as well. I have a teenager in my house, but my friends that have kids that have been to college and in conversations I've had, one piece of advice that they give to folks that I think really resonates true is in terms of giving students the space to grow, do your best to ask as many times, what do you need? Which is different from saying, well, here's what I think you should do. You might get to the second part of the conversation, or they might ask that first. But in their ongoing development, you have our commitment that we're going to support them on this end while you support them from home.
Love it. Thank you all so much. That concludes our pre-planned, shall we say, portion of our question and answer time, but intentionally left ourselves a few minutes to be able to address some of those that you all have submitted throughout our session and give you all some time to submit any more that you may be thinking of. So give me one moment just to look at those that we've got submitted, and then that is how we will spend the next bit of our time here. All right, I am scrolling through and see a question here. Dr. Stewart-Tillman, I'm wondering if you could get us started on this first one. A couple questions going back to what you shared about finding community, looking for places to connect, and wondering maybe about some specific ways to do that. The question asked specifically about diversity in Clemson and wondering what the environment is like for our students of color coming in this year.
Yeah, no, as many of you saw when Dr. Hallenbeck was presenting, diversity is one of our stated values at Clemson University. So thinking about, we know that our students are not coming from homogenous backgrounds. And this is the first time they're probably in a more diverse background than what they've experienced at home for some of them. And thinking about diversity as one of our values, thinking about it holistically, including, as mentioned, students of color, race, ethnicity, financial status, and thinking about the first generation students, et cetera, and thinking about multiple ways, geographical. Some of our students, it's the first time being in a rural area. For some of our students, first time being in the southern area, all of those pieces. So we think about it holistically when we think about diversity. And there are many different ways to find community around identity. As I mentioned, of our over 600 student orgs, some of them are identity focused for folks who are thinking about sharing identities, sharing communities based around diversity, or the others who are interested in that. None of our organizations are exclusive, even if the name may mention an identity, but thinking about celebrating and creating cultural opportunities for all of our students. And many of our students will also create student organizations if they don't see their need there. I should have mentioned that earlier, of that finding community. Sometimes it's our students who are the ones who create that community. So that is a stated value and something we take seriously in supporting our students in that way. Thinking about safety, I do know that we love to tout thinking about how safe our campus is and how it's been rated a highly safe campus in many ways. I do understand the nuance of questioning around students of color. Historically, I have worked with a lot of our students of color through a lot of the programs, and as I mentioned, that represent all of our students, and thinking about Heritage Months and working with a lot of the student organizations that I just mentioned. And our students, holistically, I cannot speak for everyone, would also echo that the safe statement. The good thing is there are also a lot of resources, going from you have an RCM on your hall if there's a challenge, to we have a care network that our faculty and staff employees all use to make sure they're referred to the Dean of Students office if there are challenges. So we're a very reactive campus to when our students do feel as though they have concerns and issues in that way. So I would say there are a lot of avenues both to find community that create safety, but then also if students do feel any challenges, there is a lot of resources to support them.
Awesome. I appreciate that answer. Jumping around here, looks like there's a question, Dr. Poole, specifically about student government, as you mentioned. So if a student is interested in getting involved with student government, what is a good first step to do so?
Someone mentioned earlier about paying attention to emails and social media. That's going to be really important. Our student government will have an opportunity for several freshman seats. We save that within our Senate, which is the legislative branch, for first year students to get involved in that way, as well as there's a lot of committees you can start to serve on really early. So I would pay attention. They will start to communicate out to them as a student government, as well as they'll be a part of our convocation that your students will attend and have the opportunity to attend before classes start. So I would start to pay attention. My CUSG, I know they're in the process of updating their website, but that is there. So I would start to pay attention. But they do, they're able to use the listserv for emails as well as social media. So getting involved through those pathways, as well as we do. I mean, I'm certain they have some email addresses that someone could reach out if they have some very specific questions. If they're having trouble finding that, please find me and I will help you all make those connections. But it's a great way to get involved and grow as leaders on campus and beyond our community, really.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Poole. Looking at another question here, I'll start with you, Dr. Hallenbeck. This one says, what do you measure, or I'm sorry, how do you measure student well-being and success outside the classroom?
Well, it's difficult on a whole. I mean, some of the stuff that we pay attention to in terms of well-being are simple as, do students return from their freshman year to their sophomore year? Do students graduate in 4 to 6 years? Is that, that part of it? We also do lots of, survey data. We have what we call, the names now escape me because I'm of that age, but we have surveys that we send out every semester, kind of just to kind of hit touch points, ask people how they're doing. And part of that is well-being. How are they handling it? Do they feel like they belong? Do they feel like they're being supported? So we are able to collect that data. We also do some health, more in-depth health surveying through Healthy Campus and our health center as well, that touches on overall well-being. We ask questions like, are you getting 8 hours of sleep a night? Are you eating well? Those types of things. And so some of it's certain, a lot of it, so we get a lot of survey data, then it's a lot of anecdotal data as well, talking to RCMs, talking to our CAPS counselors, talking to our physicians, talking to our care team, just to kind of get an overall idea of what students are dealing with and how we can best address any of the different issues that are coming up. So, Dean Poole, do you have anything else with that, since you deal a lot with care and well-being?
I think you answered it very well. I would just add, as you mentioned, there are a lot of departments that support our students, and so we try to ensure that we're communicating and really real time. Are we seeing any trends in what's occurring in the care office in conduct, or even through a health center, with aggregate data and things like that. So as we're understanding things, one, trying to address that, working potentially with our Healthy Campus area to do more education. We partner with our police department sometimes on safety and well-being. So, those things where we're getting those snapshots of moments in time through surveys and other things, but then also ensuring that we're not just talking to that one student and moving on, but are we starting to notice any trends or patterns, or are we being contacted, being asked about trends and patterns, so that we try and make sure that we're following up there as well.
And thanks, Casey, for putting it in the chat. Power of the Paw survey is what I don't know how I forgot that.
Yes, Power of the Paw survey, super helpful tool, certainly helps us ensure that we are on the right track. Next question that I'm seeing, jumping back to you, Dr. Stewart-Tillman, question that asks about support systems that have proven most effective for our first generation students, which you touched on a bit, and then students who may be struggling academically or personally.
Right. And there's a lot of pieces to that I know can be intertwined and separated. I actually had a meeting with one of our academic colleagues today, specifically about first generation students. And the good news is there is the first program, which was in the Gantt Center for Student Experience, which is open to all first generation students who want to be assigned a mentor and or attend Success Matters workshops, as well as there are also some college level first generation support, as I was talking with Pierre today in our College of Engineering, and thinking about how we can streamline that, again, thinking about how we bolster those supports. A big thing that came out of that conversation today, and that you all could be very helpful with your student, is a lot of our first generation students don't don't know where to go for help, or don't want to ask for help in that thinking about I'm already a first generation student. So, of course, encouraging our students to ask questions, not be ashamed to ask questions, to utilize their resources. And hopefully, by seeing folks who, like me, identify as a first generation student, we have faculty who are first generation folks who also release some of that stigma to say, yes, we've all navigated and needed some support in that. So, we do have specific programs. And thinking about that, struggling academically, I was reading something, I think, from the same program of looking at the resources around tutoring that we have a lot through our academic success center, some are college level, not seeing those as a last resort, but a first resource. I'm working smarter, not in reaction, but proactively thinking about the resources that are available to me. But also sometimes when students are a little shocked by their first test or first assignment, knowing that many of our students were the rock stars in their high school, no matter first generation or not, of proactively talking to advisors and talking to support systems about that. The other part was struggling, sorry, Casey, it was struggling academically and was it socially? Is that was
Personally.
personally. And knowing that Dean Poole can speak to that if wanting to add anything, but knowing that can mean a lot of different things. We know sometimes it's challenges at home, sometimes it's homesickness. So I know a big part of that is sometimes getting involved in that way. But Dean Poole, I don't know if you want to speak to other ways of supporting those who are struggling personally.
I, I think what I would add, being mindful if there's other questions, but I want to spend time here as well, is that sometimes students are struggling personally, and as you've already said, they don't know where to go. Honestly, sometimes others are noticing. So what I'd encourage to y'all as family members is if you notice things, help share these resources to your students and help get them connected or reach out to us so we can help them to get connected and to have that support because sometimes it's a struggle because it's really difficult. Sometimes it's a struggle because it's new and unfamiliar. And there's so many things. And that's why, when I said, what are we hoping to learn about this community in the first year is that our goal is to help support through whatever that is. I mean, I won't say we have the magic answer to everything, but we're going to work really hard to support the student wherever they're at. So utilize us to help support your student as they build their resilience through whatever they may be going through.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. Poole. We'll jump over to Kathy, who talked a lot about making Clemson home, the transition that comes with that process. Question follow-up from that asks, how long do you think a student should stay on campus before visiting home? What would you say to that?
I think it's a great question. Like many life questions, there's no one hard and fast answer, especially when you add the complexity of home might be 90 minutes away, 9 hours away, or across the country, or even another part of the world. So some of that certainly has to be navigated by each family. But I would say for many families, they relay that if it's not an issue, if you're not struggling, if it's just I'm having normal transitions to school, normal homesickness, normal challenges, and I just want a taste of home. Many families relay that waiting till Thanksgiving feels too long. I know a number of families that have said that instituted that as a rule, and later they were like, oh, maybe a little earlier would have been okay. So I think in that dialogue with your student, you'll find what that sweet spot is, either for a visit from you, a taste of home come to them, or a visit to the home that they came from. Just for your calendar as an FYI, our students do get a fall break in the middle of October. So they have no academic classes on October 12th and 13th. So they get a nice 4-day weekend there. And then they also, because it's an election year, students won't have classes on November 3rd. So there are a few built-in opportunities for students to take a break, but certainly that dialogue amongst your family will be where you'll find your best answer there.
Perfect. Thank you. And we've got perfect timing for just one more question. Seeing one that was submitted specifically asking about the fraternity and sorority life process. Sounds like perhaps asking specifically about the Panelists recruitment process, whether it is truly an open process, what the environment tends to be like for our active members, chapters, welcoming in those new members. Dr. Stewart-Tillman, wondering if you can speak to what both students and families can expect from that process.
Yes, very much Panelytics strives to make sure it is an open process. We do have a lot of training prior to, and specifically, we have recruitment counselors called PICAs that disaffiliate from their organization to help potential new members and guiding them through this process. Why I feel confident saying it is an open process is 98% almost of potential new members receive a bid, and many of the ones who don't is because they chose a single organization. So thinking about it in that way and not cutting off those options, but there is as many parameters as much as possible to make sure it's an open process, that people find the organization that is best suited to their needs and vice versa. And thinking in that way, there are multiple rounds to explore that. So it's not a one and done. As I look at the social media, like making up mind, there's multiple rounds to make up that mind, to get to know potential new members better, for the potential new members to get to know the organization better, to know, am I interested in this philanthropy? Am I interested in this event, in those types of ways? So it is, we do strive really much so there to be an open process, and those recruitment counselors that I talked through, they monitor that throughout the way, as well as our Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Well, we are nearing the end of our time here together this evening, but want to make sure that you all are left with some good contact information. And so with that, we'll pass it back to our Vice President, Dr. Hallenbeck, to take it from here.
One thing I like to say, and again, if you're ready, so Roy, you heard me say this, we may not be where you end, but we can always be where you start. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns about anything at the institution and you don't know who else to call, the folks that are on the screen there, and you have our contact information, reach out to us. Again, we may not have the answer, but we know who does, and we can connect you to that. Sometimes it's a big institution and you call someplace and they transfer you someplace, and that's great. But if you're not getting what you think you need, or your student doesn't know where to go, you can always send them to us and we'll get them connected to the right place. So feel free to reach out, and then also follow us on Instagram, especially the at Dr. Doug Clemson. You never know, on both of those, your student may show up on it at some point. So you want to follow us. It's also a good way just to kind of get an idea of what's going on campus. A lot of celebrations, a lot of fun stuff. So reach out to us, follow us on Instagram, and we look forward to engaging with you. And come to Family Weekend.
That's right. Perfect plug. Family Weekend, September 18th through the 20th, everyone. In keeping with Family Weekend, a couple more reminders as it relates to you all. You have likely heard me say many times before that the Clemson Parent and Family Experience Portal is what we use as our central hub for all things family communication. So university news, upcoming dates, deadlines, things that we want to make sure that you and your student are aware of. You are very likely in the orientation community in that portal already, but if this is by chance the first time that you're seeing that, would certainly recommend that you all go in and configure your accounts. This is what we will use to share out the recording of this session, as we have with all others. Quick reminder about our last two sessions. So tomorrow, actually, we will have another webinar in the evening, similar setup with our Clemson Family Ambassadors. So our current Clemson parent and family members who sort of serve as consultants on your experience are going to be here with us sharing their words of advice. And then we will round out our series next week with our next steps for success. So we'll talk all things Academic Success Center, Weeks of Welcome, as Dr. Stewart-Tillman has mentioned, Center for Career and Professional Development, and any other kind of early highlights that we want to make sure that you all are aware of in the month of August. So this will do it for our evening. As always, please reach out to cufamilies@clemson.edu if you have more questions, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Go Tigers, and good night.
Go Tigers.